All right, welcome back, everybody, to Tuesday Night Eternal. We've got the Expedition Challenge going. We've got 2 rounds in the books, and we are getting set for round 3 here. We've got a handful of players at 2-0, and we're going to go ahead and feature them here in a moment. So our feature match for this next round is going to be Noverb versus TempestDragonKing. I don't think we've been able to see much of either of these players tonight, so hopefully we'll be able to pull up some good matches here.
And I think we have an Elijah mirror here, actually. And I'm not sure if the 75s are exactly the same, but the shells are mostly there, I think.
And it looks like they did get started real quick, so I apologize that we're jumping in a little bit, everyone. But here we go. We're jumping in now. So we've got, let's see, we've got 21 to 20 on the life totals, relatively even on board. Looks like Tempest got a little bit bigger units here. And Noverb's got a Smuggler in hand, as well as an Edict, and an Emblem in hand, as well as 2 other power.
Yeah, these Resolute Monks are really scary when they're swinging in for 5 overwhelm every single turn. He could opt to trade off with the Borderlands Lookout, which is probably a good idea here. But the Edict could just take care of that if he does opt to try to block.
Mm-hmm. Now, Tempest in hand, we've got Sodi. Haven't seen much of Sodi tonight, but very, very powerful card. Something we've been really looking forward to watching here. We've also got the Praxis Arcanum. That's one of the sites that you don't see quite as much in the competitive realms. Do you think that changes with an Expedition? You think Arcanum gets a little bit better in the Expedition with the smaller card set?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, with the smaller pool, I think everything kind of increases in power level just by not having as many crazy things out there. But I've played my fair share with Praxis Arcanum in Throne format, and it's actually pretty solid. But it is definitely underused.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's probably a lot of cards like that where they probably don't see a lot of play in Throne because they just aren't quite there power level wise. That maybe have their format to shine in here.
Mm-hmm. All right, and as you said exactly, trading off the Resolute Monk there, and then following up with the Smuggler. Ooh, Sodi Spell Shaper. That's a nice draw there for Tempest. I remember seeing that card spoiled. That's a house right there. Both sides of that card are super powerful. Stapling them together is just an incredibly powerful card.
Yeah, and the fact that it spellcrafts for a total of 4 power, it's just so efficient. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if that's going to be increased in cost at some point here in the future.
Well, if you had asked me last week, I would have said no. They're not gonna, they're not gonna do quick nerfs like that to some of these cards. And then the surprise announcement earlier this week with a lot of, I think a surprising nerfs for a lot of people didn't see that coming. Not that they're bad. I think a lot of those nerfs make sense, but not something that I think people were clamoring for this week.
Yeah, I mean, I was not expecting any changes anytime soon, to be honest. But I think all the changes were the correct changes to make. Just kind of rebalancing things in a good way.
Yeah, definitely, and another way to keep everyone on their toes. Nice little switch ups here. So Ice Elemental here for Noverb, a nice little 3/1 Aegis.
I would assume this edict is putting that merchant on the bottom here. I don't be one to take another
You're gonna
6
go to
damage and
3.
an extra card. Seems like a bad plan. So that edict is definitely putting it on bottom here.
Go. See, I'm just gonna go ahead and follow up with a Sodi here, as well as the Earth Elemental that they received
That
off the
elemental is
emblem.
it's going to be a good blocker for this 5/3. I almost wonder if Noverb even swings in here. I guess. Oh, obviously,
Oh, the
Crystallize is
crystallized. There
going
you
to
go.
make it very
And
easy.
that'll just do it. Nice play there by Nova. Very nice to turn that around.
Yeah,
Those
picking up
five
that
threes hit
Crystallize a
pretty
few
hard.
turns ago and being patient enough to use it when it gets some lethal is
Mhm.
very, very good.
And it turns out those 5/3s hit pretty hard. When they're not blocked, they do a lot of damage real fast.
Yeah, and the overwhelm helps as well. Just, giving it that little bit of extra, even if it does get blocked, it's able to get damage in.
Mm-hmm. That was one of my favorites back in the last expedition set with the mono even time deck. That was a nice little beater there, 2-drop for when you didn't have your golem in hand.
Oh yeah.
Sure, people were a little bit sick of that deck by the by the end of the format, but it was a fun one.
Yeah, the Evenated Golem was literally my favorite card from that set, and then it definitely was my most hated card by the end of its reign.
Yeah, it is a unique effect, which is pretty fun, but get to see a little much of it sometimes. All right, so
Yeah.
Tempest has in hand. We've got a Temple Shihan, a Storm Lynx. That's a fun one you don't see a lot. Praxis Arcanum, and a what is that? Woda Grodov's Listener, another the Time Listener here.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty solid hand to start it off on both sides, really.
Both players with the sweet Curiox Totem here.
Yeah, I've been using that totem ever since I got my pre-order in.
All right, here we see the Borderlands Lookout again. It's very very powerful against Tony G's deck, but even just here against a 2-faction deck, just a 1-power 2/3, not a bad beater at all.
Yeah, it's just incredibly efficient. Even if your opponent is mono, having a 1/2 still pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Following up with a Trailmaker here, and Dragon King going to go ahead and drop the sight. Going to make their unit a 2/5. That's a pretty strong blocker.
Yeah, still going to be able to get some chip damage into the site here. Or just, bounce the unit
Yeah,
and
do you just Edict?
or use the permafrost.
Yep, that works too. Take care of that site.
Yep.
Another Storm Lynx in hand for Tempest. I like seeing some of these cards that are all stars in the Forge format or the Gauntlet formats showing up in the competitive ranks here.
Yeah, it's cool. And I mean, cards that you would normally see in, like you said, Forge or maybe Draft that are pretty good there can actually probably find some legs here in the Expedition format. And I think that's, definitely a good thing.
Absolutely, it definitely makes for interesting games, and as we've talked about a couple times, keeps things fresh, and keeps us on our toes too, trying to figure out these decks and what's powerful as we go. Well, no question about that being powerful. Sodi Spellshaper off the top for Noverb.
Yeah, Spellshaper off the top is a great draw here.
Now you don't really necessarily want to equivocate here.
Certainly don't want to equivocate the permafrosted thing, but these Storm
Yeah.
Lynxes would be reasonable choices, but obviously not going to be able to do it here at fast speed.
It's pretty good. The Storm Lynx is doing work here, drawing an Edict on one of them and eating unit with the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no Decimate here makes sense. Want to be able to play the Island Mizo event.
Yeah. Alban Roa here. It's a pretty powerful one as well. That Onslaught.
Yeah, opting to increase the cost of that Spellshaper makes a lot of sense here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
Obviously,
makes
Island Mizo is a big threat, but not being able to do the Equivocate definitely a thing that you want here, because that was going to get rid of Alban.
Yeah, that's going to push that up to 6 power to be able to use the Spellcraft. It's going to be a little tough. Noverb not
Probably
going to be
actually
able to do that.
Closer to what it should realistically cost.
Not really great attacks here. You can attack with the Elemental freely. Gonna go ahead and fire off the Spellshaper.
Yeah, I apologize to chat if my cat is a little bit loud in the background there.
Yeah, hard to say who got ahead with that trade. Eating the Spellshaper for basically no value. Kind of a 2-for-1 there, but it did take care of the Alban Roa, which you needed to do, and get that off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Border Scout coming down here. Still 2 turns away from Island.
Yeah, that's a pretty good Inspire. There's we've seen Inspire on cards before, but your units get flying is a pretty impactful one.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And making something swing in every turn is
Mhm.
also really strong. Like that effect didn't really seem that good to me at first, but seeing it on several different cards and seeing it be very, very effective, I've definitely changed my mind there.
I remember back in, I think, what was it, a format or two ago, being able to play the primal land and draft that made a unit reckless. People were
Yeah, the coin.
you're playing that off of the coin. You're playing that even off color. Some people were playing that just to get that effect. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
get a Predator's Instinct here. Pretty nice. Now, Novorb losing those Trailmakers is actually struggling on power a little bit. I don't think I noticed how behind on power they were until when they're with the Trailmakers out. But yeah, they're only on 4 still.
Yeah, that's where the emblems have a very real cost. It's nice to be able to use that extra power, but if you have things like units that are giving you the power that you lost from it, losing those units and then dipping down below where you thought you were going to be is a very, very real cost.
Yeah.
Interesting that he
Oh,
went with the seat there as opposed to the emblem. Could have played that Island Miso there.
oh, a flying Kimi is a pretty good combo as well.
Yeah, it definitely is because that's one that is relatively easy to block once you have a board. But
Yeah,
if it's in the air, it makes it a lot more difficult.
that card can be it's very swingy. It can be extremely powerful if it can get through, but the downside is that it's fairly easy to block. Giving a flying against a deck that can't handle flyers is extremely powerful and can be really hard to deal with here. And
Absolutely.
especially with Noverb
Yep.
doesn't really have an answer in hand, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's gonna need to find another spell shaper. I think that might be that or an edict, I suppose, would be
Mm.
the main answers. But edict would just put it back in hand and delay the inevitable.
Yeah, meanwhile, getting a 3/3 and a 2/2 shifted units on here, that damage is going to start adding up here. He's going to add a third one to the board this turn no matter what, or next turn no matter what. Um,
I love that both sides have both a 5 cost and a 10 cost Island Miso here.
He's going to decimate there, get that ice elemental. Noverb says, I'm not playing this 10 cost Island Miso anytime soon, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Nope.
And there's your third shifted unit off of the Kimi.
Yeah, that's just so much unblockable damage every turn.
And with no answer on this turn, that's going to add a fourth.
Yep.
I mean, that's that. It with nothing else. I mean, that's probably just going to be lethal on its own. You're gonna have
Yeah,
four
absolutely.
unblockable here, and then next turn you're gonna have what's that next turn? Or in the I guess in the next 3 turns with the unblockable units, that's 9 after this already unblockable. Yeah,
Yeah.
who has the alt art? Is it I
Uh,
don't actually know which one is
I'm
which one
not.
is the special art.
I think Noverb has the alt art. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks like the little turn off my notifications here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think the all right, all good there. I think the little symbol at the bottom looks cut off there.
Oh yeah, it's like a weird, differently
Yeah,
shaped gem there.
yeah. Still no answer for this Kimi. And as we said, that's going to be you've got at least 9 unblockable damage coming through, 10 with the Kimi itself. So I guess 11 with the other flyer. Yeah, this is just going to be game if Noverb can't figure out either a way to gain some health or get rid of this Kimi.
Does it still play one if the board is full? No, it
Ooh,
doesn't.
good
So
question. Yeah, I guess
that
not.
does that does kind of slow things down a little bit, but it's still. I mean, He's got 4 unblockable here, 4 next turn, and 4 the following turn. So it actually doesn't really matter all that much. Not to mention the 2 one attack flyers are going to keep getting in. So it's looking pretty grim in the absence of a Spell Shaper. And honestly, at this point, I think it's just way too late.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because Noverb has powerful cards, but they're not lining up at all against what's happening on board right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've played a fair amount of Elijah, and I haven't actually played the mirror match yet. It's this is kind of what I was expecting.
Now,
Pretty grindy.
Was this Kimi invoked, or is this in the deck, or is this in the market? Do we know?
I think it's in the deck. I'd have to look at the list, but I'm pretty sure it's just in the deck.
It's pretty good, and it works really well when you can give it flying with the Fate.
Yeah.
Inspired there. Okay, so that's going to be, I think that takes us to 1-1, I believe. So going into game 3 here. And remember, both of these players are 2-0. So whoever wins this match, starting off 3-0, is basically going to have their choice of, their back-to-back winning ends going forward here. Most likely. But yeah, if you want to be in a... Whoever wins this one, let's just say, is going to be in a solid position going into round 4 for sure.
Absolutely.
That's a good question. I don't know if Noverb's deck has that synergy or not.
It looks like that Kimi was off of a Woda. So he had the Shihan on the board and played the Woda, got the Kimi, and because it is technically drawn from the Woda or from the Invoke, that's
so that was off an Invoke. Oof.
Yeah, that's a nice hit off the Invoke.
So I think that's 2 wins tonight because Tony G's win earlier was off of the Invoke as well.
Yeah.
So that's
2 wins off of Invoke. It's a very powerful effect.
All right, going down for the crucial game 3 here. And we see rough starting hand for Noverb here. Going to have to throw that one back.
And to answer chat's question, it looks like Noverb's deck does not have the Shihan. So obviously neither one has the actual Kimi in the deck, but that interaction is not available. And actually, I don't even think that Noverb has the Woda either. So that little interaction is completely out of the question for him.
Yeah, that's a good point about a little bit of randomness and winning competitively there. I'm not sure. It's also sample size, right? I don't know if it's consistently Invoke is going to consistently give you the exact card you need to win these matchups. It did just kind of work out that way in the 2 matchups that we watched, but it is a powerful effect and gives you that option, gives you that out.
Yeah, chat noting that it is exactly discovered from Hearthstone, which I am not a huge fan of Invoke in general because of that. The thing I didn't like about Hearthstone was all of the RNG and having that affect games, and we're seeing it here. So I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on my feeling about it, and I think I'm maybe on the side of not loving it.
Yeah, I do like that it gives you the choice. So it's not purely random. There is a little bit of strategy built in there, but yep, there's a little bit of randomness built in here. Something that these digital card games definitely have the ability to do. Okay, pretty good start here for Noverb here though. 2 Trailmakers and an Alban Roa with no answer on Tempest side.
Yeah, Trailmaker ramping up. No power in hand though, so if those Trailmakers are gone, he's gonna have some issues with power again. Saudi's a nice draw here, but the Edict is just going to clear it right off and put it on the bottom so it can't come back and just keep swinging away.
And down to 10. Pretty good start for a pretty good curve out here for Noverb.
Yeah, and that's just another thing that goes into the hand with the Edict. Going to get in for all 9 and win the game here.
Yeah, I think that's just lethal on board.
Quick beats.
Yeah, there you go. Quick curve out there for Noverb to take that one 2-1. So good match there. Seems like pretty even decks there. But Noverb's going to go ahead and take that one on a nice hand, nice curve out there to improve to 3-0 on the night. So very well.